think that we also have to acknowledge that some of these representations in this magazine and elsewhere, including, remember, in the video that was produced in the United States that represented Muhammad and was offensive to many Muslims, that there are risks associated with that, and that kind of offensive representation could be provocative. But I think it's important, especially after what happened in Paris, to make it clear that there's never justification for violence, and there's no excuse for what happened.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you have it both ways? There's never an excuse for violence. We're for free speech, but welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. And before we get to Robert Spencer to weigh in on all this, we want to know if you are satisfied with the way the president is handling all of this when it comes to terror. And you go to newsmax.com/polls, newsmax.com/polls. But also, I want to let you know, if you're watching us on the Dish satellite network, we're now broadcasting temporarily on 2 channels, but our main channel on Dish is still 223. So please check us out there on 223, where we will always be. Now, Robert Spencer, director of Jihad Watch and New York Times best-selling author. Robert, first of all, before we get to what CAIR is asking Fox News to do to you and others, let's talk about what Jay Carney said in defense of what he said 2 years ago when he took the magazine Charlie to task for their judgment. And now we've had Josh Earnest 2 days ago doubling down on what Carney said. They're all for free speech, but.
Yeah, well, the problem with that, Steve, is that once you say the but, then the free speech goes. Free speech, the First Amendment was designed not to protect popular speech or accepted speech that was within the bounds of what was considered to be acceptable discourse by the powerful. The First Amendment was put into the Constitution, into the Bill of Rights, in order to protect unpopular speech that was unacceptable to the elites. If there is no free speech, the tyrant can work his will unimpeded and unopposed because nobody can speak out against him. And so when Jay Carney and when Josh Earnest, and when Barack Obama, for that matter, say that there are restrictions, there ought to be restrictions on the freedom of speech, voluntary self-censorship on the part of non-Muslims to adhere to Sharia blasphemy laws and avoid offending Muslims, he is throwing free speech out the window and establishing Muslims as a protected class beyond criticism, which is just the worst thing that we can do now in this time of escalating jihad terror in the United States and around the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Let's talk about what, and you wrote a piece about this at jihadwatch.org. CAIR, which is an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, by the way. And, you know, they had a representative talking about, and O'Reilly mentioned last night that CAIR was that unindicted. And the guy said, the Muslim guest said, well, that's good. They're unindicted. You're unindicted. I'm unindicted. That's a good thing. And I don't know that O'Reilly ever fixed that, but co-conspirator is the operable term here. But anyway, what is CAIR asking Fox News to do with regard to you and others who speak like you?
Well, what they want Fox to do is to ban us from the airwaves. Every time there is a jihad terror attack, of course, I tend to get called, other people like Steve Emerson, Pamela Geller, Brigitte Gabriel, and others. We get called in to comment on these things. It's a normal thing. I was on Fox 4 times over the last 4 days, and Steve Emerson was on a show, and he said something that was erroneous, made a mistake, as we all do from time to time. But Fox is trying to capitalize on this to say that all of us are unreliable and all of us should be dropped.
Wait, Robert, you mean CAIR is trying to capitalize on it? You said Fox.
Yes. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, you're quite right, Steve.
Yeah.
CAIR is trying to capitalize it to get us all dropped off the air because CAIR doesn't want the truth about jihad terror to get out to the American people. They know that that's what we're telling them, and so they know that they try to seize on anything they can to silence us. Even though Emerson did overstate his case, he was speaking to a real problem. He was talking about Sharia encroachment in Britain and the violent enforcement of Sharia on the streets of London. There were people who were jailed for that. And there are areas where non-Muslims fear to go in Britain.
Absolutely. He was talking about no-go. He was talking about no-go zones. And I don't know exactly what he said, but there absolutely are no-go zones. And unfortunately, they may be headed here as well. All right. So what's the result? I mean, have you have any indication that Fox is going to capitulate?
No, and I would be very surprised if they did. I very seriously doubt that Fox is going to bow to the wishes of a Hamas-linked Muslim Brotherhood front group. But it's just par for the course, Steve. What we have here is the ongoing effort by CAIR to silence, discredit, and marginalize every last person who says the slightest thing in opposition to jihad terror. They've been doing this for years, and then they had the audacity to stand up after the Charlie Hebdo jihad massacre and say they were in favor of free speech. They're in favor of free speech.
Well,
like
so did Mahmoud Abbas. What can I tell you? Robert Spencer, thank you very much. JihadWatch.org, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, the president of the Christian Action Network.